Alright guys, so I'm back with another video. So last time I went over the process of importing a skeletal mesh, and this one I'm going to go over the different assets that come with it whenever you import it. Only one asset was actually imported, the other assets are created by Unreal Engine whenever you bring in a skeletal mesh. So I'm going to explain that. If you look in the lower left hand corner of the icon right here in your content drawer, or your content drawer, then you'll see the name of the asset. It's called a skeletal mesh. This is what you actually imported right here. So the other two assets, this one's a physics asset. It's used inside of Unreal Engine for things like ragdoll, physical animation. So if you're not familiar with physical animation is basically a controlled ragdoll, or a blended ragdoll, I should say. So you're partially blending ragdoll into your animation so that it still follows the animation, but it reacts physically to the world. They have a newer physics system set up just specifically for physical animation. I may get into that a little bit in later videos. It's a bit more complex than just regular physics animation, the old approach anyway. So if you open this up, you'll see that it tries to create some stuff for you automatically. Now, depending on what you're going for, you might like that look. So if you're okay with that, or if that fits your game style, that's fine. It is very unrealistic though, because they don't add proper constraints to it. And a lot of the times these physics bodies, these are called physics bodies right here. If you hover over it, it'll tell you that bodies can consist of multiple shapes. So anyway, yeah, so normally it makes them too big. So you might come in here and readjust that so that they're not like clipping into each other and stuff as much. The clipping can have some can cause some problems in certain situations, so just be aware of that. And then if you want a more realistic one, you're going to have to create these yourself. Basically, you can keep these right here. Most of the time I go with boxes for the hands and feet. So I'll just give you a brief breakdown. If you come over here to this gear icon, that's normally where more settings are for any of these windows. If you see a gear icon in any of these windows, you get more settings. So for the details, it's always just show only modified, so on and so forth. So these are just filters. But in the skeletal tree, you'll see all manner of different things, blend profiles and stuff like that. So if you're inside of this window right here, you'll get options that are specific to the physics asset, such as, let's see, hide parents when filtering. Yeah. So if you uncheck that, you can see the actual bones that these physics bodies are attached to. And you can add more by right clicking on them and creating, constraints and adding more physics bodies and stuff. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. I was just giving you a brief introduction to it. Here's your settings for your automation generation of these physics bodies. But yeah, so normally you're going to want to create custom constraints and stuff like that. I'll do a video on this later. If you want realistic physics, you're going to have to adjust this. And in some situations, you're going to want different physics profiles depending on the situation. So anyway, moving on from that, that's your physics body. Every character gets one of these, or at least every character needs one of these if you're going to simulate ragdoll or partial physics on the body. The skeleton asset is something that basically it's like a contract with Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine, whenever it needs to access the skeleton, whenever it needs to evaluate the skeleton, it looks at this asset. It's not looking at the skeletal mesh asset. One thing to know and make the distinction is that this skeleton is not the actual skeleton that you brought in with your character. It's important that you make that distinction because that skeleton is still on the skeletal mesh. So the skeletal mesh still has its own skeleton. That's something a lot of people get confused about. This skeleton asset is just a collection of all the bones that all the skeletal meshes that use this skeleton have on them, which is why if you bring in another character and you import it and you tell it to use this. So if I come over here and let's just say I go to my desktop and I bring in the UE5 Mani. I can, if I try to import it into the same folder where the UE4 skeleton is, it'll automatically think that I'm going to import this character with the same skeleton. And you'll see there's a conflict here. It's saying that this skeleton is incompatible with the asset skeleton. That's because this one has 5 spine bones, while the UE4 only has 3. So it's missing 2 bones. So if I try to import this, then it's going to try to fill in all those bones. It's going to add all these bones to that skeleton. So you'll see that it has some like twist bones, I guess, that the other one doesn't have. I believe I've never actually looked at this new thing right here because I normally don't try to import a character onto a skeleton that doesn't belong to it. Yeah, so the skeleton has some conflicts. This is orange, so I assume these orange ones are the ones that the other one doesn't have. Um, yeah, so spine 4, spine 5, that's correct. That sounds right. Yep. So if I were to import it onto this skeleton asset, then what it would have to do, Unreal Engine would have to add all those bones that are missing from the skeleton asset to that skeleton asset. So then you'd have a spine 4 and spine 5. And if you went over to your skeletal mesh over here, it would show spine 4 and spine 5 in here, but they would be grayed out, kind of like this one is, which except instead of having a bone next to it, it would have a dot. And that would basically mean that this bone doesn't exist on this skeletal mesh, but it exists on the skeleton asset. So whenever you bring in animations, you assign those animations to this skeleton asset. And the reason Unreal Engine does that is it allows you to share animations between multiple skeletal meshes, as long as they've prescribed to this skeleton asset contract. Then they can use those animations that are assigned to it. So if I bring in an animation, if I import an animation, then it will be assigned to this skeleton asset, not to that skeletal mesh. It's important that you understand that. So there's some important things that you guys need to know about in regards to characters, and I will cover that in the next video. I could cover it in this one, but I think it's probably better to break things down as much as I can or where I can. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do throughout this course. And I will see you in the next video where I will go over skeletons and stuff like that.